Good afternoon. My name is George Martin. I am Executive Chair of the Building Performance Network. Here's my agenda for the afternoon. It's about getting building performance evaluation into building regulations. I'll firstly introduce the Building Performance Network, look at our research work for 2021, and then the new BPE British Standard. Building regs, barriers, solutions to getting BPE accepted, and progress to date. This is our team. You'll be hearing all of our team this week. So I chair the Performance Network. Laura looks after our membership and research. David Adams is our Development Director. Professor Fionn Stevenson is our Campaigns Director. And John Bootland is a director of BPN, but also the chief executive of the Sustainable Development Foundation. The Building Performance Network, at the heart of BPN, is building performance evaluation. We have three objectives. The first is to create one collective voice by bringing together people with an interest in building performance. The second is to promote and develop building performance evaluation to ensure that data is consistent and supports decision making. And the third is to provide leadership to influence policy, procurement and practice towards performance-based outcomes. Here are our pioneer members, and I'm delighted to say that Leeds Beckett University have been a pioneer member from day one, which was when we started the organisation back in 2016. Research work for 2021. The main research is around the new BPE British Standard, which will be published in December of this year. And associated with that research, we're looking at a project to work out how we accelerate the adoption of BPE. So what's the business case for doing BPE? And if any of you have case studies that would help, please get in touch. And we're also seeking funding for that now. And the other aspect is that we need to produce a set of tools, primarily for non-practitioners. The BPE British Standard, we were fortunate to receive funding from UKRI and the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, which is part of the Transforming Construction Challenge. The chair of the standard is Dr. Kerry Mashford from Interfacing. The deputy chair is our own Professor Fionn Stevenson. And we have joint authors, Kerry Mashford and Zach Gill from SOAP Retrofit. Building regulations. There's an impenetrable barrier to achieving net zero carbon for buildings. The current building regulations are based on compliance with a design standard and not compliance with performance in use. This results in a significant performance gap. In order to rectify this, the primary legislation, namely the Building Act 1984, needs. So we've got barriers, and we need to seek ways in how we're going to overcome these barriers. The Building Act 1984 doesn't give sufficient powers to create a system of regulating energy in buildings in operation. If regulating operational energy was a route that government wanted to go down, essentially there would be two new routes. The first is amending an existing act, such as the Building Act 1984. The second is to create a brand new Act of Parliament. As well as requiring new primary legislation, a system of checking and enforcement that's quite different to anything that currently exists will also be required. However, BPN points out that building regulations already make provision for building evaluation activity beyond the completion of a building for up to 30 days via commissioning and airflow testing in Part F. Our argument is that the extension beyond completion is already there. We are therefore just asking for an activity to happen at, say, 365 days beyond completion, rather than just 30 days. Building performance evaluation is like commissioning. It's an activity that carried out for a limited duration at a fixed point in time. As such, we believe it should be possible for the regulatory framework to be able to accommodate the requirement for another fixed activity relating to building completion after the event, but in this case, instead of 30 days after completion, it would be, for example, 365 days after completion. The requirement would be to demonstrate that BPE had been carried out at this point, and a provision of a notice to the regulatory authority confirming that this has actually been done. We're also looking at the Sustainable and Secure Buildings Act. You may remember that back in 2004, Andrew Stunnell brought this bill to Parliament. And to quote from the bill, the Act, it says, "The Act creates new powers to make building regulations on these topics, that is, sustainable, eco-friendly buildings, secure against climate and environmental changes, and also requires the government to report to Parliament every 2 years on what has been done." BPN asks for the following 4 things. The first is that operational performance of buildings should be subject to regulatory requirements. The legislative framework should be amended to capture all opportunities where building performance can be influenced and improved. That is, the construction of new buildings, works to existing buildings, sales, and new or renewed leases. In the first instance, regulatory requirements should as a minimum cover energy consumption and carbon emissions. In the near future, they should be expanded to cover other aspects of building performance, including indoor air quality, thermal comfort, acoustics, etc. The public sector should adopt operational building performance minimum requirements now in order to demonstrate its commitment, help build industry capacity, and improve the performance of its estate. And government should require building performance disclosure and support the necessary infrastructure to underpin it, including appropriate methodologies for assessing and reporting performance, and a commitment to transparency so that performance data can be publicly assessed and analysed. We are making some progress. We had a meeting with Eddie Hughes, who's essentially the Minister for Housing, back in July. And Eddie said in his very helpful LinkedIn post, and I quote, "The Building Performance Network does what it says on the tin. That is, it works to bring together individuals and organisations with an interest in improving building performance in operation." So I would add, if any of you today would like to join the Building Performance Network, details of how to apply for membership are on our website. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and I look forward to your questions.